Hello, I'm Charling, and this is Turmoil. So, what is Turmoil? Well, it's an oil rush game set in the 19th century in North America, where you get to play an entrepreneur who is competing against three other entrepreneurs trying to get as much money as possible for drilling for oil. Now, the game uses a 2D colorful art style, but don't let that fool you, the game actually has quite a lot of depth. The experience is divided into two parts. I'll talk about the oil drilling part of the game first, since this part will take up the majority of the time with the game, and it will also help you to better understand the other sections of the game. So at least some of what I'm saying is going to make some sense. So at the start of each map, you're going to see two companies that will be buying the oil. On the left hand side you have Left Inc. and on the right hand side you have Right Inc. Now each of these companies will pay the amount listed on the building for a barrel of oil. The number is going to fluctuate, and as far as I can tell is completely random. So you're going to be wanting to keep an eye on this to see whether or not you want to be keeping your oil in silos or whether you want to be trying to sell it off. Now at the start of each map you're going to have to find out where the oil is first, so you're going to hire a dowser who will walk along the surface and look for the oil. And basically once he's found some, he's going to give off a little whistle that's going to indicate that the oil is somewhere below him. Once you know where the oil is, you're basically going to build an oil rig somewhere on the surface and begin drawing your piping toward where the pocket of oil may be located. And once the pipes actually hit or enter the pocket of oil, it's going to begin pumping to the surface. Pretty simple. You're then going to need to hire some wagons which will collect the oil from the rig and deliver it to either of the two companies on the sides of the map. And you do this by clicking the up or down arrows above each of the building to assign wagons to the respective sides. Obviously, the more wagons you have, the faster the assigned oil is going to be delivered. So if you've decided not to sell the oil, you can basically build silos in which to store the oil until the price is the amount that you want to try and get for it. And basically the objective of each stage, which lasts from January to December, with the exception of the training missions in the game, is to earn as much money as you possibly can. So you may think, well, that seems pretty simple, and yes, for the most part it is. But the caveat is, as you progress through the campaign, new factors are introduced that are going to increase the complexity and depth of each level. So for example, you can increase the size of the pipes so that the oil flows faster, but then you need to make sure that your wagons are able to handle the output, or by making sure you have more of them, they have increased capacity or they have increased speed. Basically, oil can overflow, so if your wagons aren't able to collect all the oil, it's going to spill out of your rigs, and you're going to be slapped with quite a heavy fine actually. And in the later stages, rocks are going to be introduced underground that can't be drilled through unless you have bought the drill upgrade, which in itself is quite expensive. So unless you plan on drilling through, you are going to have to navigate your way around. And even further on, they introduce gas pockets which start appearing as well. These gas pockets, when you tap into them, they'll increase the rate at which the oil flows through the pipes, or if they're connected directly to the buildings on either side of the map, this is an upgrade that has to be purchased as well, will then boost the selling price as long as the gas is flowing into the building. So in later stages, it's absolutely necessary to take this into account in order to plan when you are going to offload all your oil. You want to be directing all your gas into one of the two buildings on the side. And in the last stage, you're also able to increase the size of these gas pockets, because by default they're going to be smaller than in the other zones, by surrounding them with your pipes. And if your pipes have the thermal upgrade, they will allow the gas pockets to expand in size, giving you more gas to work with. So on top of expanding your pipe network, you're having to monitor what the oil prices are, what time of the year it is, when you should start selling your oil, should you be hanging on to your oil. So there's a lot of decisions that you're going to be making as you play through a stage in the game. It's not overly stressful, but it's definitely keeping you busy. So once that's done, at the end of each stage, you're going to return to town, and this is basically where you're going to be upgrading all of your different stuff from the various buildings that are available throughout the progress of the campaign. There's a bank where you get loans, there's a salon where you can hire the services of various shady individuals, which will basically lock the oil sale price, or they'll reduce the fines for spillage, or give you lower interest on loans. And there's even a guy who, if you give him a diamond, he'll tell you where the best spot of land for oil is for your next bid. There are a number of different buildings that you are going to unlock, which increase your wagon size, their speed, the number that you can have at any given time. You can upgrade your dowsers to douse deeper into the ground and douse faster. Your moles, which are kind of random, they go all over the place and try and find oil pockets for you. You eventually unlock the ability to scan things, which is very, very useful. And finally, you can upgrade your pipes as well as the size of your silos and that kind of thing. Basically, once you've done and upgraded everything that you want to upgrade, you will be bidding on a piece of land. Each piece of land that you've bidded on previously has a number on it indicating how much oil it had. So it's your guess as to which plot of land next to that is going to yield the next highest amount. And you're going to be bidding against the AI. Everyone's going to try to guess which plot of land is going to offer the most oil and be bidding for that. And on top of that, at least in the campaign, you are going to bid for shares in the town, because at the end of the campaign, the player with the most shares is going to become the mayor and win the game. So there are basically 4 areas in the campaign that you play through, each with many different zones in. Once you've completed all the zones in a specific area in the campaign, you move to the next zone. And as I mentioned earlier, each zone introduces some new mechanics in the game. And, if the campaign is not something that you're interested in, there is single game mode as well, where the game will basically load you into a procedurally generated level where you're going to try and earn as much profit as possible. You can basically pick what zone you want the level to take place in. And that pretty much sums up Turmoil. I've spent about 8 hours with the game so far, and I'm busy making my way through the final zone in the campaign. And to be quite honest, I'm having a lot of fun with the game. It's very addictive. There is something inherently satisfying about watching oil convert into profit. So the UI for the game is pretty decent. It's clean, it's not convoluted, which is fine. And there are hotkeys to build and hire and do that kind of thing for your various buildings and your various units. And so it's easy enough to learn. They're all kind of centered around the WASD keys, or you could use the number keys. So that works fine for the most part. But in order to assign your wagons to either of the 2 buildings on the left or the right, you need to click the arrow by the building to increase or decrease the number. Or you can hold down the button to increase or decrease the number quickly, which is fine. It does serve its purpose. Part of me was hoping there'd be a function or a keyboard hotkey where I could just press to assign all wagons to a specific building in those instances where you need to send everybody to unload when there's a good price. So that would have been nice. The other thing is you can fast forward the game by clicking the double arrows on the screen. But unfortunately, you're forced to left click and hold the button in order to speed up time. And I think I would have liked to have been able to either rebind the key, or if they had an alternate mapping in order to speed up time. Because it's entirely plausible that you may want to be placing down stuff while time is being sped up. Also on occasion, I've had the game stick on fast forward mode even after letting go of the mouse button, which obviously is not ideal. It can lead to some complications and a loss of profits. The other thing is, in the campaign, I think it would have been nice to be able to rename your character to make it feel more personal. As it stands at the moment, each of the 4 characters in the game have preset names that can't be changed. I'm not entirely sure why it was not included. I don't imagine it would have been too hard to implement, so it seems a bit odd that they didn't allow that ability, but it's not a big problem. I suppose it's just a small gripe. So as I mentioned, there is a single game mode as well, but to me this mode feels like it has less of an impact because there is no persistence. You don't save up your money and it doesn't carry through between levels. You don't have an AI to compete with, so it's basically playing the oil mining part without the context of the campaign. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think for me it just feels a little bit more hollow because of it. So finally I want to talk a little bit about the music. It's decent, it creates a nice western theme, but unfortunately there seems to be only 1 or 2 tracks that play over and over throughout all 4 zones in the campaign. Now even though the music's not bad, I think that some variety would have been welcome here, that if they had written a different piece for each of the zones to convey a slightly different atmosphere. There's only so many times you can hear the cowboy guitar bends without eventually turning the music off. But aside from those complaints, I think that Turmoil is actually pretty good. It's a really fun game. It's addictive, it's relaxing, and I can tell you hours are going to pass without you even noticing. And for $10, yeah, I think this is definitely worth checking out. If you think $10 is too much for this, then you could just wait for a special, but I don't think you should pass this up whether you buy it at full price or on special. I think it's definitely worth checking out. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the section below. If you've enjoyed the video, you can support the channel by subscribing, liking and sharing my videos, or if you didn't like it, there's always the dislike button. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that I've set up a Patreon page for the channel as well. So if that is something you'd like to check out, you can just head over to the link in the description box below. Otherwise, that wraps up this look at Turmoil. I've been Charling. Until next time.
301 Marshall 17.